Welcome to Scoop World Orders Notre Dame Week. We are rolling along. It is finally the matchup that we've all been waiting for in South Bend, NBC, 7:30 Saturday night. The Buckeyes are going to have the foot hit the ball, and it is going to be time to whoop on the Irish, coming off their best game of the season by far, a smackdown 63-10 versus Western Kentucky. Outstanding on all facets of the ball. Offense, defense, special teams really put it together. Ryan Day gave him the whip. Gave him the whip last Sunday, and it worked. And, I think that it'd be interesting to see how much of a whip he gives them today after a win like that. Sometimes you have to beat them down a little bit once they've had a great win like that so they don't get a little too heady walking into South Bend, which will surely be a challenge with their outstanding quarterback and Marcus Freeman looking for revenge. So we're going to break down a little film, talk a little bit about what the week's going to look like, and we will go from there. But as always, thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate you guys so much, as always, tuning into the show. Huge numbers last night, as always. Thank you to you. On these Sunday nights, we try to do it between the end of the 4:30 games and the beginning of Sunday Night Football. So you'll find that little window where we will jump on for about 30 minutes and let's go through what the week's going to look like for the Buckeyes. But as always, if you could leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell for all of our regulars to jump in here immediately. We appreciate you. And comment, who needs to be the MVP this week for us to beat Notre Dame? Is it Jack Sawyer? Is it JT Tuimoloau? Two guys that are coming off fantastic efforts this past week. The defense is stifling. There's a lot of great things going on right now. A lot of good momentum on the defensive side of the ball. Offense is coming along. It's going to be a hostile environment. This is a game that every Notre Dame booster in the universe wants to go to. There's going to be private jets up and down their landing strip. People flying in from all over the world to watch this one. So big one for the boys. And we haven't been out there since 96. It's been a long time. So with that being said, going to begin my good friend Nevada. Buck Nevada, how are you tonight?
I'm perplexed, though, Mr. Barton. I'm perplexed because there was a comment from one of the viewers that was like, hey, Nevada's backtracking or something like that. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? Backtracking? I have no idea what you're talking about on backtracking. It's like, man, I told you guys the defense was going to be great when the rest of you guys were not you, but the rest of you were jumping off the bandwagon. Oh, the defense is going to be terrible. The defense, oh, well. And I'm like, I told you guys the defense is going to be great. This defense has given up the least points in the first three games of an Ohio State season in 48 years. The least points in 48 years. Now, you can say, well, they played Indiana, and they played Youngstown State, and they played Western Kentucky. I guarantee in those 48 years, not all first three games were against Notre Dame and Georgia and Alabama. You know what I'm saying? I mean, typically the first three games are against cupcakes. And heck, one of those games is even on the road. I'll bet you 2/3 of those first three games when we're playing were always at home or something like that. So, this is a really good defense that has a chance to be borderline great, and I expect it to carry the team all year. That's not backtracking. That is like absolutely being the conductor of the Jim Knowles Express, the Trey Henderson train. You guys can jump on the Trey Henderson train to all the bench Trey, man. You guys back of the line because Trey is doing his thing, but no, just a great win. But I think your point, earlier was spot on. I think the OSU coaches are going to have to knock the guys down a little bit, build them back up this week because you come off 63 points and everybody's feeling fat, dumb, and happy, feeling like everything's working. And I think I would expect to see early in the week that they're just hammering the guys on the little mistakes and trying to clean that stuff up, and then build them up for a big effort on Saturday night in South Bend, which is what I expect to see.
Yeah, like your point about starting off on the road in the Big Ten. My freshman year, I just had to look up in 2003. We opened with 5 straight home games. Now we played number 17 Washington, number 24 NC State, who had Phillip Rivers, who was a really good team. But 5 straight home games is like unbelievable, because you never have to charter. You're literally just you're chilling. Home games are a huge edge. People don't realize that in college, but it's really nice to play at home. Again, I had no qualms with going on the road. But going on the road does kind of suck. Like, it's way better to be at home because you get more rest, you get in and out. Like you're used to, you get your nice hotel, the Blackwell. Some of the places we stay on the road, frankly, suck. So we stay out in Iowa, it's terrible. Penn State's terrible. Some of them have gotten better, but some of them stink. But that being said, I think that what Jim Knowles has done has been unbelievable. Obviously, Western Kentucky, 6-year quarterback, number 1 in the nation in passing offense last year. And the fact that our edge guys got a substantial amount of pressure versus an offensive line that literally all they do is pass block. I mean, that's what their entire MO is at Western Kentucky. That is, they're full on air raid, full on. So those guys know how to pass block generally. I mean, they have to. That's the only thing that they recruit is guys that can pass protect. And JT and Jack were terrors in the backfield. I know that everyone is obsessed with sacks. I'm sure a lot of you guys, because I'm watching NFL football and seeing Micah Parsons get sacks, and but it's just a totally different game. I mean, there's these guys hold the balls longer in the pros. They run pro style schemes where the ball just doesn't come out as fast. And plus there's the pass rushes are better. I don't know. It's just when I watch it, it's a totally different game because when teams play Ohio State, that ball's coming out fast. And Jack and JT, I think Jack had like 9 pressures in the game. I mean, he was constantly in the backfield. Great, get off looked great. And again, that's a passing team. So obviously, this for Jack Sawyer and JT Tumwell, this is the absolute money game for them. Other than Penn State, where they see Olu, who's their superstar left tackle. Notre Dame's got probably the second best tackle we're going to see in Joe Alt, he's a All-American preseason guy, first round pick for sure, left tackle. So when those guys go against him, it's going to be money time. You beat him for a sack, it could be like Vern Golson beating Jake Long. Like that vaulted Vern into the stratosphere. Obviously, Vern was very productive his last year at Ohio State, which was my senior. I went against him every day. Very, very talented player. But that sack against Jake Long was the one that was on all the highlight reels. It was the one that all the executives in the NFL talked about. It made him the 6th pick. So I made him a lot of money. So I'm happy for Vern. But Jack and JT have that kind of opportunity. Notre Dame has a great pair of bookend tackles, guys that have played a lot of football, very well coached by Joe Rudolph. He's a guy that was at Ohio State when I was there, a great friend of mine, a really good technical guy. I was at Wisconsin for a long time when they were real good. Came from Virginia Tech, who's terrible now, which is crazy, and now is at Notre Dame with Marcus. Nevada, who needs to step up this week? What do you need to see out of this offense? We'll start with the offense. Like, obviously, what we did last week, fantastic. But it was against the defense that was in like the 120s, I believe. It was like 117 or 120 and terrible. What do we need to see this week versus Notre Dame's defense led by Al Gold and Marcus Freeman?
Well, like it's for me, the story on the offense is going to be the offensive line, how the offensive line kind of holds up, how they can kind of establish things. But then I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to say this is on the play callers, man. This is on Ryan Day and Justin Fry and Brian Hartline to scheme it up so that we're not predictable. We're not, doing the same things from down and distance and by formation. Because when we show a little bit of creativity, when we show a little, when we run things that we, haven't shown every single time and do things that were super predictable, where we're all screaming at the television that we know what's coming. When we do that, the offense generally tends to cook along. And I have a feeling that's what Ryan Day has got in store for Notre Dame. I think that's what these first 3 games was doing, was kind of trying to establish some tendencies so you could break them. We've seen some things where, we've pulled linemen and, done some, some of those looks that we had, like the play that we broke down last night where you had Trey kind of on a zone read look to the right and they pulled it out and threw it to Emeka to the left. I think they're going to be doing a lot of that stuff, keeping, guys going left and right. And you might even see them keep it and run straight up the middle on the quarterback keeper off that action. So I think you've got a lot of different things that you're going to see. I think, but for Ohio State, offensive line, can you protect McCord and give him time in passing game? And from a running game, can you just at least give Trey and give Chip just a little bit? Just give them a little so they're not getting hit in the backfield every time. And if we can do that, I think it's going to be a great night for the Buckeyes, and I expect it to be a great night for the Buckeyes. I think Ohio State's building just the way that you want them to build, and I think the fact that they responded so well to Ryan last week against Western Kentucky is a further indicator that they're going to respond and take to the next level this week in South Bend. So I'm expecting a big effort.
Yeah, I agree. I think that stopping the run is going to be critical. I think that the defensive line has a lot of energy and a lot of momentum right now. Like Tyreek obviously played fantastic. Jack and JT played their best games of the year by far. A lot of activity. Mike Hall's still kind of all over the place. He's a guy that I watched him. I want more from Mike Hall, frankly. I think he's got, there's a lot in there, a lot of talent in there, but we haven't seen the production from a pressure standpoint. He's gotten in there. He's gotten a sack. I think it might have been either last game or the game before. I think it was Indiana he got a sack. But, he's got so much talent. And, he's going to have the plus matchup because he's going against 2 new guards. The tackles are veteran. The tackles are real good. the guards are the weak spots. So Tyleek and Mike need to eat, and it'll be interesting to see if, given how much they run the game, do we rotate more or do we keep it the same? Because, man, we are not rotating many guys through on the D-line. I don't even know if I saw Caden Curry play. Maybe he did. I think he might have at the end of the game, but I didn't see that nickel package. There were a lot of things that kind of went away. We got a super chat. Appreciate you, Philip. Does Trey have more receiving yards out of the backfield than rushing? Watching from New Jersey, Ohio State 42-20. That is a great question. I don't know. I wouldn't imagine so, but maybe he does. Nevada, do you have any idea on that? I don't know that off the top of my head at all.
You talking about on the season?
Yeah. I'm looking it up right now, but I don't think so. I mean, I know he's had some really nice gains, but that's like kind of a gotcha question. I don't mind it. I'll look it up just for the sake of the super chat. Thank you, appreciate that. I never said Master Teague was a pro. I couldn't. Master Teague is a very hard guy to criticize because he's literally the nicest kid in the entire world. Super Christian, does everything the right way. Great dude, just ran to darkness. So I don't. It's funny. Edward Rogers said that y'all said Master Teague was a pro. I was like, I never said that. Matt, did you ever say that?
That Master Teague was a pro.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Master Teague could have been a guy that could make an NFL roster because he's such a great guy, a combine freak. You would just put up unbelievable combine numbers, and like you said, great kid, character guy. So I would think that he probably checks those boxes. So from that standpoint, I could see it. But in terms of like being a productive professional player,
no.
I mean, that thought's never ever crossed my mind. Not even when I was drunk, that thought's never even crossed my mind.
No, so Trey on the year, 30 carries for 191 on the ground, 6.4 average, 4 rushing touchdowns. He has 3 receptions for 45 yards. He's definitely out rushing his receiving yardage totals. But appreciate the super chat, my man. Yeah, I think that we're gonna have some guys that are. Oh, he meant for the Notre Dame game only. I don't know. No, I think Trey's gonna run it. I mean, I think Trey. Again, I watched Bijan Robinson today. He's on a bunch of my fantasy teams. Like, I see Trey when I see Bijan. Like, there's guys that, they're horses, but they can run. It's like Saquon. Like, he's like Saquon. Like, Saquon is just a different cat. You get him the ball, man, and you just let him do it. You pass it to him. I mean, he didn't rush for a ton of yardage, but he had 2 or 3 scores. I know he had at least 1 receiving, 1 rushing, but he gets the ball in his hands, and it's just absolute electricity. And he is that's what Trey is to me. Trey, they're not all the same. Like, I think that the rotation is starting to shake out now where Trey is getting the lion's share of the front end work. They sub in Chip as the running back too. Mayan is kind of that third guy. Mayan, very nice player, but he's more of a Mike Weber. This is not denigrating or whatever, but I just think that he's more of a Mike Weber, kind of like a 7th roundish type guy, a guy that could maybe make a team. I think Trey is like a Bijan, a guy that could be a 1st round pick, 2nd round pick type guy. If he tests well and has a great combine, I think he'd easily be a 1st round pick. I mean, I think teams that that like to have a factor running back. I mean, I look at some of these teams like Christian McCaffrey and some of these guys those are 1st round guys, and they make a huge difference in your offense. Josh Jacobs, led the NFL in rushing. Like, when you want a top drawer dude, you got to go get him, and you got to spend a 1st round pick on him. But again, I think Trey has kind of been the story of this team just because of last year being a lost season after the huge freshman year. I mean, going into last season, he was a preseason All-American across every format. And then he had, a season where he was injured. Frankly, and, it was kind of like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like his last season wasn't really what you thought it was going to be just because of injuries. So, but I think he's going to be critical in this game. I think there's always this level when you're playing a team like Notre Dame and their running back, I want to say he's, maybe over 400. I mean, he's close to leading the nation in rushing. He's really good. I think Trey's going to have a little bit of that I want to be the best back on the field type thing. And Trey physically is better than the kid Audric Estime. But, I mean, he's having a big year, and he ran for 900 yards last year. So, Notre Dame's going to try to take the air out of the ball just like all these other teams do against us, like Indiana, like Youngstown State. Like, they do not want to get into a track meet against us, I promise you. I mean, I know the quarterback can throw it, but if they can burn that clock up and keep Marvin and Emeka off the field, that's the best strategy to win. So Nevada defensively, what do we need to do? Who needs to step up? Who's going to be your player of the game projection as of Sunday? A lot can change over the next 5 days, but as of today.
Well, no, but I think you did a nice job of describing what we're going to see on Saturday. What you're going to see on Saturday is Notre Dame trying to run opportunistically, try to dink and dunk down the field, try to run some misdirection, tight end drags, bootlegs, do some stuff to kind of give Hartman nice, easy, throw, kind of keep the Ohio State defense from teeing off and keep them guessing. And if they can stay one step ahead of the OSU defense, they feel like they've got a chance to, shorten the game, win this game 24-20 or 21-17 or whatever they want to do in terms of the game. But that is absolutely going to be the formula. So for me, in games like that, it's about Tommy Eichenberg. How's Tommy Eichenberg going to play? Can we be stout against the run and not allow them to get 4, 5, 6, 7 yards on first down, force them into 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 type of passing situations, because that's how we're going to stop Hartman and that's how we're going to stop the Notre Dame offense. But it's going to be a big challenge just because you're not going to get any calls. It's going to be loud. Hartman's experience. He's a savvy guy. I don't think he's he's not a great college quarterback. This isn't Joe Burrow, but he's been around for 6 years and he's thrown a lot of touchdown passes and he's played in a lot of games. He's seen a lot of things. So for the OSU defense, hey, win the battles up front so we don't have to pressure with more than 4 and be sound, and Tommy Eichenberg take the game over and limit that Notre Dame rushing game and force them into passing situations, and I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, so Audric Estime, their tailback, literally has 521 yards rushing through 4 games already. So he is a guy that is grinding. They're handing it to him. He's averaging 8.3 a carry, 5 touchdowns. So he's the guy. There's no question who you need to stop this week. It's that guy. Sam Hartman, obviously, 1,000 yards passing through 4 games, 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, which is impressive. But they're leaning on that running game. That running game is kind of what they do. So we're gonna watch a little bit of pressure because I like watching pressure because pressure makes me happy. So everybody was on Jack and JT. Everyone's obsessed with the sacks. They still don't have any. Mitch Melton finally got us a DN sack. But, this is 2nd and 7 right here. So you got your, it's just like the charity that Luke Fickle started. But Jack right away, right at the top here. Fantastic burst. And again, all these guys do is pass block. So it's not really like, they know what they're doing generally. But Jack gets right around him. It's probably a holding call right there. JT loses contain here. He should be on the edge, but again, the pressure's there and nothing gets done. Again, they get a little bit of a gainer. This is more on JT. JT's got to keep his outside. See, JT goes down the middle here, which you should never do. You should always rush the outside shoulder and keep contain. But Jack is, he couldn't do any better there. He flushes him right into JT. They get a little scramble there. I'm going to fast forward to the next play, which is a nice piece of coverage from Jordan. Jordan Hancock is playing great at nickel. I'm telling you, of all the things that I'm excited about, it's the fact that we're running 3 corners now because we get to these teams that can throw it. I'm telling you, it's like God's gift, especially if you can get pressure with 4 or 6. The way that we like to run our little zero look. So I'm gonna put Jordan Hancock on real quick. So this is the next play, and again, we're pressing, ball's coming out quick. We're showing 6, dropping out of it. And again, this isn't Tanner McAllister anymore. This is an adjustment that we've made. We're playing a corner in the slot. Perfect coverage. Get off the field. And again, I know you look at the score. Obviously, it's 42-10. That's the first drive coming out of halftime. And I'd bet you $1 trillion that Ryan Day was on these guys saying, how are we going to come out? How are we going to finish the game? Are we going to come out, sleepwalk, let them walk down the field? Because again, ignore the jersey and just look at the stats. They led the nation in passing offense last year. So these guys know how to throw it. They know how to pass protect. They know how to do their thing. And I'm telling you, we ate it up and we shut them down. And again, I think that a lot of it is just, I think Josh Proctor is playing fantastic. Again, he's in coverage here. He was like white on rice in coverage, which is something that's amazing because that kid's been through like hecking back as a player, and it's just really fun to see this kid having the type of year that we've projected him to have for a few years now. And he's in the doghouse last year. He's injured a couple years ago, and he's really starting to shine. And the thing I love about Josh is he brings so much energy. He's an energy guy. You can see it; it radiates off of him when he's out there. And I think he's going to be really important, especially in run support. Because again, these guys run the ball. They're going to try to run it, take the air out of the ball. The only way you can play Ohio State is to run the ball on us and try to run the ball and try to keep Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka off the field. Because once they're out there, people are starting to figure out Marvin's really fast. He's a 22-mile-an-hour guy. I mean, he can take the top off the defense quick, and you can get one of those 70-yard strikes. And there's nothing that takes the air out of the stadium faster than seeing a receiver in a white jersey running the other way and going into the end zone. Like Terry Glenn did it, Ted Ginn did it, Santonio Holmes did it. Like we have a history of doing that to Notre Dame. And I'm telling you, it's something that I'm sure we're going to try to do early in this game to take the crowd out of the game. Nevada, we've long known you're the king of the Jim Knowles of the universe with Jim Knowles, and I think that people have this weird deal about him where it's like they wait for him to fail, but he's playing. I mean, he's calling spectacular games right now. We're giving up 6 points a game again. It's been like 50 years since we've given up 6 points a game or less in our first 3 games. Why do you think people are still so jaded towards him? Because again, I know that they're going to point to 2 games, but honestly, I think he's doing fantastic. He's adjusted. He's a different guy. He runs different concepts now, a lot more zone stuff stays in front of him. I think that we're playing the right guys now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me answer the question a couple of different ways. First of all, with an observation, I think people like to be mad at Jim Knowles because they can't bring themselves to be mad at Ryan Day, and we need a villain. I'm saying like that, and to have a good story, you need a villain. So who's going to be the villain? The evil super villain, Jim Knowles, the $2 million man that's up there. So because we can't be mad at Ryan Day, the king of mental health, and he's our leader, and he's the thing, and we can never fire him even if he loses 11 times in a row to Michigan. So we can't be mad at Ryan. So who can we be mad at? Can't be mad at Brian Hartline. We've already buried Stud. Stud's gone. Justin Fried's the golden boy. Let's whip on the special teams coach. Let's whip on Parker Fleming. Let's work. Can't do Corey Dennis too close to Urban Meyer, and so we'll go for Jim Knowles. I mean, I think that's literally how it works with a lot of people. It's not based upon anything real. I just think people, they kind of get this stuff going, and that's where it's at. But with Knowles, you're seeing the evolution. I thought go back to his press conference last week where he talked about how he's kind of evolving as a defensive play caller. And I think in a microcosm, we saw that this week. In his first 3rd down and 6 situation, or 3rd down and 8, 3rd down and 10, he blitzed and brought 6, and they completed a pass and got the first down. And you could almost see him go, something, I didn't need to do that. I don't need to blitz in that situation. I can pressure these guys with 4. And I don't think he dialed up another one of those the entire game. Only rushed with 4, and we completely shut Western Kentucky down. And I think that changed right there for anybody who's saying, hey, we need to be a little less aggressive. We need to keep a few more plays in front of us. We need to play the game where we're giving up fewer big plays. I think that's almost like the moment where it just got put into practice. And I mean, it was palpable when I watched it. I was like, wow, that's exactly what he's talking about. That's exactly the type of play calls I think he wants to have back. And I think as a result, you're going to see a lot of sim pressure. You're going to see a lot of things where we're walking guys up to the line. But I don't think you're not going to see as many, blitzing. Blitzing, I'm defining as bringing more than 4. I think we're going to do it a lot with 4, just from different spots on the field, from different locations, being a lot more selective about how we're doing it. Because I think he trusts those front 4 to get the pressure, and he definitely trusts those back 7 to make it good once those guys are doing it. So I thought that was really interesting about Knowles, and for those people that are still not sold, I just say give him another look, give him another chance, because if you're missing it, you're missing a really good defensive scheme, a lot of really good defensive coordination, and a defense that's playing with a lot of belief right now. Does that mean they'll never give up a score, big play? No, it doesn't mean that. But I think that they're going to acquit themselves really nicely this week in Notre Dame. Big challenge for them, and they got to lead the way.
Yeah. I think that there's just some stigma that comes with being the coordinator on both sides of the ball that they're going to hate you. It's hard. It's different with Ryan because Ryan basically is the offensive coordinator. Like, no one's going to hate Brian Hartline because he recruits so well, and he doesn't call the plays. So, and people love Ryan, which is fine. But I think that, back in the olden days, like with Tressel, people hated Jim Bowman. They hated Jim Haycock. Under Urban, they hated Luke Fickell. They hated Everett Withers. They hated Tom Herman. They hated Ed Warner. It's just, I don't know. I think it's part of it. It's one of those good things. I'm going to break this play down. I love this play. This is a 3rd and 1. Right at the 50-yard line. These guys are going forward, of course. Watch Jack Sawyer here. So again, everyone's sacks, nothing but sacks. It's the only thing that matters is sacks. Watch the effort here. So Jack closes down on a tight end here, right on his hip, perfect technique. Then he wrong arms the guard. He's trying to kick him, and he takes that on right at the hole. So he's in his gap. You got your edge shield. And then he keeps coming, and he makes the tackle. Him and Sonny. But I mean, like, that is great defensive football. Now I know that only shows up as like half a tackle or whatever, but this is what playing defense is about. It's not about. I mean, the gaps are fully covered. There's nowhere to go. You're shooting your gun here. You got your motion guy. He's shooting his gun. Edge. You got your edges. He's playing this perfectly. Like, there's nowhere to go for this running back. I mean, this is great by Lathan, too. Lathan shoots his gun here. You get your motion here, and he's shooting it. And boom. I mean, you got, he doesn't make the play, but he disrupts it enough that he's all, and look at JT. JT setting this edge perfectly, outside arm free. I mean, that is great football on 3rd and 1. And again, I know Western Kentucky and all they do is throw. But again, that's exactly what you want. And you look at the effort. You look at Jack. Look how many, like when we hit him, look how many got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you get the corner man up. So you have 9 guys within, 5 yards of the ball on 3rd and 1. And they're all playing their gaps perfectly. I mean, that structurally is really good defense. Again, those 3rd and 1s take the air out of the balloon. And again, is this, this isn't Michigan, this isn't Georgia, but this is great gaps on football. I'm gonna play it again from the end zone here real quick, because again, this is kind of the look you're going to see against Michigan. You're going to see Sonny Styles playing Sam linebacker. You're going to see Tommy Eichenberg at Mike. You're going to see Seal Chambers. Well, Seal might have played his best game as a Buckeye. He had a pick. He was fantastic on the perimeter run game. Again, I know you guys don't see the amount of chemistry that him and Tommy have, but I do. When I watch the film, those guys know exactly where they're going to be, and that's not some cosmic accident, and that doesn't happen overnight. That happens because they played a lot of football together last year. They're best friends off the field. Play a lot of football together this year. There's no rotation at linebackers. There's no, hey, we got to get these other guys in. Those 2 guys are in with the ones every single snap, and I think it's great. I think it's really beneficial to the defense, and it keeps everything coordinated. But again, you watch this. So this is our our heavier package, like the old 4-3 defense, like back in the day when we had like AJ, Bobby, and Schlegel as our 3 linebackers. You got Sonny, you got Tommy's your Mike, you got your Will here. Here's your strong safety. Here's your free safety. So, whatever, this is a bandit, an adjuster, whatever they call it, hot dog and foot long, whatever. But, you see Tyleek in his gap taking on the double team. You see Jack closing. You see Davon. Again, you get no sexy or credit when you take on a double team, but like these 2 D tackles are doing. You see edge being set. Edge here. Jack taking on the down block, I mean, this is beautiful football. And then you see the swarm of people. I mean, where's he going to go, guys? This is fantastic football. You see, edges perfectly. And again, I know it's Western Kentucky. I'll do it against Michigan, whatever. But like structurally, that's perfect. Perfect defense. So, I get excited about it because these poor kids get whipped to death by our fan base. And I watch them and I'm like, these guys are playing really good. And it's not just because they're just out muscling kids or they're bigger and faster and stronger. It's like, no, they're in the right spots. They're doing the right thing. And the most important thing in the world is they're playing hard. They're playing with a ton of effort. And Jim Knowles, the one thing I do love about Jim Knowles is if you don't play hard and you want to do your own thing, and you want to play, you don't want to hold your gap, you don't want to hold the rope for the defense, he will bench you, and you will stand right next to Perry Eliano on the sideline for the whole game with your helmet on, and they don't care. I mean, like, I don't think we've seen Malik Hartford since he pulled him. I mean, he started last game, didn't play well, and man, if you don't play well with him and you don't do the right thing, it's not that you're just gonna get pulled for the game. You might get pulled for multiple games. So again, what's the easiest way to correct people? Take their playing time away. And again, I love that. I think it's fantastic. I think if guys don't want to do it the right way, and you have options, because that's the thing is sometimes you'll have players that hold you hostage because you don't have a backup tackle or guard or center. And I'm not saying anything about our offensive line. I'm just saying, like, sometimes there's guys that hold you hostage because you just don't have, the guys are too young or not good enough to rotate in there. But on defense, we got a ton of safeties that can play. We have a ton of corners that can play. We have a ton of linebackers that can play. And I think that, man, he ain't scared to pull you. I mean, he did Josh Proctor for a whole year last year. Now Proc's in there and he's balling. So, but Nevada, what's your reaction when you see that? Because again, I just love seeing how sound we are, especially in short yardage, especially when they need it. And that's a team that is a good offensive team. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, it's all about the fundamentals, and that stuff doesn't come. And we've seen bad fundamental football. We've seen it in the recent past at Ohio State. So I don't ever take it for granted. I don't ever, think lightly. And as you mentioned, I don't ever denigrate the opponent because I think you can only play against who you're playing against. But, I think the defense is showing a lot. We're doing exactly what you'd want to do. If you were trying to say, okay, what would the defense look like if we're trying to build towards a season where we're going to have to be there at the end and be a national championship contender? What would the defense look like? Well, it would look exactly like this. And I think this, like I said, the South Bend game is just going to be a great challenge. Like I said, a terrific running back, veteran quarterback, a terrific offensive line, hostile crowd, big-time environment. I mean, it's all going to be there. But again, this is why the guys come to Ohio State, is to play in games like this. They'll definitely be jacked up. And, we're better than Notre Dame. We're better than Notre Dame. Ryan Day's better than Marcus Freeman. That's another thing. I took some garbage from somebody. It's like, oh, you're talking bad about Marcus Freeman. I'm like, I just don't think he's a very good head coach. That doesn't mean I don't think he was a great Buckeye or great, but I don't like every ex-Buckeye when they're coaching. When they're coaching against us, they're the enemy as far as I'm concerned. I think Marcus Freeman's the jury is definitely out about how good of a head coach he is at the college football level, whereas Ryan Day has been in a lot of big games, called a lot of big situations, won a lot of big games, and I think we've got a clear edge at coaching. And I think in games like this, I think coaching matters, and I think Day gives us a big edge, and that'll be helpful as well.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that again, nothing against Marcus. Played with him. He was like a part-time captain when I was a captain in 07, so we did the coin tosses together and the whole thing. But if you're not with us, you're against us. Good luck to you, homie. Root for you the rest of the games. But this week, I hope you get throttled by 100. And again, and I also hate Notre Dame. And so when we beat them in 05 out in Tempe, one of my favorite wins of all time, maybe my favorite one of all time that wasn't a Michigan win. Going to break down a quick offensive line play. I thought Carson Hinsman really took a nice step. Again, these guys got massacred last Sunday in their film session. So, it was not fun. Again, there were a lot of feelings hurt in the entire Woody Hayes because a lot of these guys, they weren't playing to standard. It was a bloody day in the Woody. And we had that on BuckeyesScoop.com. And then Ryan came out in the post-game press conference yesterday and he's like, well, it was a very tough day and we challenged them. And challenge means they MF you to death until you get it right. So, because again, for some of these guys, if their position group doesn't improve, they're going to be moving and getting fired. So these guys took a nice step. Josh Simmons here. Again, these guys are on a really funky defense. There's literally 2 down linemen. So you have the end is down, the nose is down, and then you just have to kind of zone everything else because there's linebackers all over the place. You wind back here, but Josh Simmons here on the front side, great job. Again, this guy is light. And again, when these guys run these crazy defenses with 2 down guys and a bunch of linebackers, you better be able to run them over because you're going to be way bigger than these guys. So Josh Simmons, this is a really good job by him. Gets his hands in. I'd like to see him get this hand back inside just so you don't get called for holding. But again, runs them off the ball, again, like he should. Carson and Matt have a much better combination block than I'd seen. Donnie, again, is going to get those hands going, but his hands were better this week. He's not grabbing. These guys kind of, they kind of work through the three of them, and that's not easy. This is a lot of reps, man, because these guys are running, some crazy stuff right here. These three have these three. So however it gets sorted out, they do it, and they all get a hat on a hat, which is fantastic. Josh Fryer kind of has the easy gig up here. He has to get up and seal the linebacker. Does a good job there. Cade winds back. Again, a good job. And Trey's got a nice little alley. He can put his foot in the ground here, wind it back here. But you see the explosion from Trey. And again, I just think that it was nice to see the line take a step. They look coordinated. I thought Carson played his best game as a Buckeye. So I'm excited. I thought Donnie, the biggest thing is Donnie got his hands going. He had to get his hands going. His hands have been too wide. It had been giving him a lot of trouble. People in the Woody Hayes noticed it. I made sure that they knew of it. And I'm telling you, they started to correct it. And his hands were a lot better this week. And again, I just want the best for that kid, especially because he wears 74. Like anytime you play somewhere and some kid's wearing your number, like he's like automatically kind of like your favorite player because you don't want your number to ever look bad. And Donnie's such a great kid, and he's a prideful kid, and he's a really powerful kid. But if you don't have your hands working, man, it's hard to have any power. So I'm excited about the progression of this as we keep grinding along. We're going to have a ton of content on BuckeyeScoop.com. Nevada, we'll wrap this thing up. We've been cranking along here. What are some things you're looking forward to this week? Obviously, Ryan's got his press conference. I'm sure he's going to go tomorrow or Tuesday. And then this week's going to fly by before we hit that 7:30 kick on NBC. But what are you looking forward to this week from Ohio State as we get a little bit of intel from the Woody Hayes?
Well, just be interesting to see how the Ohio State plans to attack Notre Dame and what kind of defensive concepts they expect them to run and how the Ohio State plans to attack that is going to be very interesting to me. And then defensively, how you slow down that terrific running back and, how do you outsmart that 6-year quarterback? So I think this game, more than maybe any other game on the schedule, is going to be a real chess match because you've got some interesting pieces on the other side, that I really think this was a game that Ryan Day was made for. I think this is a perfect type of game where we're not going up against just freaky superior athletes like a Georgia team or something like that. Even though he did great against Georgia last week, but this is one where it's going to be about the scheme. If you can out scheme the other side, we will win this game. This game is going to be won or lost by coaching. And in that thing, I like our advantage because I like Ryan Day schematically. I like Jim Knowles schematically. I think we've got a big advantage in those areas, and we've got better athletes. So, but watching to see how they do it, that's what's going to be fun. That's what we're reporting on. That's what we talked about all week on Buckeye Scoop.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm going to break down one more, and we're going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, we've run a lot of shifted motions this year. This is probably as much as I've ever seen. We ran a lot less 2 tight ends this week. I think it's because Joe Royer was out. He was not on the injury report, but he was in street clothes during the game. So that's something to watch. So they're a little shorter there. But G. Scott has been playing really well. He's in here. You got Cade here. So you got your double tight end look. 1st and 15, we had a snap infraction penalty. So you're thinking, obviously, on first down with this kind of wingish fullback look and Cade in here, you're thinking, obviously, it's going to be a run. But we run the big play action, which I love. I love when we pull the guard, you get the little gap block in here. Because that always, when you pull a guard in pass pro, everybody, their eyes go towards the pull guard. And I think that it's something, you got the big handoff here, got Trey stepping up here, you got G just kind of securing whatever he can find. So you got a big 7-man protection here. Again, you're taking advantage of their back end. We knew their back end was there's a lot of separation coverage here. They end up bringing it over to Cade here, wide open. But I love this. And the thing I love the most is that Trey, nice fake here, but notice the pass protection. Nice and firm right here. Great stance. Great job, Tony Alford. Ready to take this on. Doesn't move him an inch. Powerful kid, Trey Henderson is. Nice, easy throw. Easy money. Other than the fumble. Not good. Oh, but then shout out Carnell Tate, man. I love that kid. Great hustle here. Saves us what would have been a low light in the film session. Got his first touchdown. One of the best kids in the world. So wrap this thing up, Nevada. Any final words? And we will go to Sunday Night Football.
No, just expecting a big effort for the Buckeyes. I'm calling it right now. I think it's going to be a nice evening for Ohio State. I think the line's too small. So if you're a bettor, I think I jump on that because I expect that line to move higher. But I'm expecting a big effort by Ohio State this week. Big win in South Bend.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think our boys are going to be ready to roll. And again, I think they're tired of being doubted by the competition. I think they're excited to see a big time program, big time quarterback. Again, these are the kind of games, these only come around every 30 years or so. We haven't been there since 96. And again, I played in that Texas game that was down in Austin in 06. And people talked about that 05 game for 2 years leading up to it. So we lost. That 06 game was, the big, revenge game, and we're going to Austin, and you don't get those games very often where you get to go to like one of those historical venues where you get to play in it and get that dub. So I think these guys are going to be really excited and jazzed up. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you guys so much. If you guys haven't joined BuckeyesScoop.com, we had a ton of new members join over the weekend before the Notre Dame game starts. We got a ton of coverage from myself, Nevada Buck, Bill Green, Oracle. We have a ton of new content that's going to be coming the next few days, breaking down this game. Obviously, the film sessions. I know you guys are big fans of them. You guys leave those in the comments. So we appreciate you guys. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell so that we know, so that you know when we are getting ready to go. So we appreciate you guys so much. But again, BuckeyesScoop.com, our premium message board, is such a blast to hang out on. It's been super active. People are already jazzed up for this Notre Dame game, putting their bold predictions in, locking their scores in. I'll do a big preview this week to break it all down. Would love for you guys to join and kick it with us. So that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks, beat the Irish.